Okay, students, welcome. I have something in my teeth. Now that we've gotten that peanut out of the way, you have built this stool until this point. Fantastic. Congratulations. Now we need to put on those angled legs. How in the world are we going to do that, Mr. Coop? Great question. I'm glad you asked. So the way we're going to do that is we are going to actually make sure that the front of this front leg is going to support our weight when we go to step on it. That's the most important thing. So hopefully our measurements worked out, and that also will allow for our steps to be parallel and even to the ground. So let's take a peek down. Here's our current piece. Now, two really important things. This point needs to be at least equal with this point or further out. Critical point number two. This dimension needs to be the same here. Okay? So you're gonna try and align this piece. Now, notice I had my hand over here and I was holding this until it was flush. Okay? So I also want to make that point flush there. Now, it might be that this angle at the top is not perfect. And frankly, we're just going to have to be okay with that, because what's more important is that the lengths are the same and that the leg comes out far enough. Okay? So, I'm going to double check that again. So we're going to go 6 9/16 to that point, and we'll be just fine. So holding it there, double checking. So like I said, this should be equal or close to. And I'm putting this right at the corner. I don't know if you see that. It's kind of right at the corner point. Okay, 6 9/16. There we go. Okay, and then just to check, but because you all have the same length as me, look at that. We have some overlap, so that when we go to step on this part, if it was here and we grab that, it could lean over. So very important, we get it right where we want it. When you know that this is 6 9/16 from there to there, this is at the corner, and you know that this is further out than the step, you're in a good spot. So what I want you to do then is not let it move. You can't really clamp it though, because we want to draw some lines. And we're going to just draw some lines designating where our board sits. Okay, so I have my line here and lines here. And if you want to, so that you can get it back in the right place, you can also put lines right there and right here, just so you know, okay, that's where it's going to go, and we're going to have some good amount of glue there, right? Okay, so now we have to decide where we're going to put those screws. Now that you have your legs marked out, we can use that handy dandy template we already made for the back legs, again for the front legs. So this time, we are going to line it up. I'll start with the trickier one. Right here, and you're going to kind of split the difference, okay? Because this is square, and that's a parallelogram. You're going to split the difference where the paper overlaps a little bit this way, and it shows a little bit that way. So, as an example, it's going to look a lot like this, where it overlaps the line a little bit over here, and it shows a little bit of the wood over here. That's how we want to do it. And you can try and make it the same for both sides. So go ahead and use that, make a mark. There we go. Again, overlapping, making sure I'm on my seam. Okay. This one you'll Again, same thing. Line up, make your mark. There we go, that's where we're drilling. Okay, those are the spots that you're going to drill. So now we have our holes marked out for where they should be for both legs. Obviously, you have to make sure that it should turn out that they're opposite one another, right? If you get two legs that look the exact same, then it's not going to work because one is meant for one side and one is meant for the other. So make sure you lay them out on the opposite side, not on the same side. Okay? So there we go. Now let's go ahead and drill those holes. As with the other blocks, you're going to want to make sure that you sand these, get the lines off of them, ease the edges, make it so it looks nice to the eye. These are ready to go. Next stage, pre-drilling and installing screws. Here we go. It is time to put these front legs on so that all we have left is to put the steps on. Right? So let's go ahead and do as we do. And check out our work surface. I'm going to go ahead and put the leg that is not getting worked on underneath just so that it keeps it nice and stable and level. Now we've already got our marks, and I'll get a little closer. We've already got our marks here and here for installing our leg. Alright, so here is what I want to suggest to you. Instead of drilling them all in and getting it all tight and cozy on one side, we're going to do one, maybe two, haven't decided yet, probably two on one side, and then flip it over and do two on the other, and then we're just going to check to see how well it all works out before we go putting all the screws in, because it might be that once we get it going, we realize it needs a little adjusting for the two front legs to line up, and it'd be better not to have them all in the same spot. The back legs are a little easier because they're straight. These being a little angled cause it to be a little trickier. So here we go. We have a clamp that I need to get, Phil. So, here we go. We're going to start by finding front point, getting it onto our spot, and I'm going to start with the clamp right here. Very solid spot. Let's drive this one. Now that I've got two in one side, we are going to stand it up and see how it looks how it feels rather, when we go to put it on the other side at the marks that we have. Before I put screws in it, just checking. Okay, it's got a slight wobble to it. Okay, nothing extraordinary, but a slight wobble. It's telling me that if I want to make it better, I want to bring it down a little bit. Okay, that's pretty close. It will just take a slight sanding. So, okay, I want you to see this is a little bit higher, but it does not wobble, and I can double check that this measurement and this measurement are similar. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to leave it there for a moment. It's higher there, but that we can sand off. 6 9/16. Okay, that should be good. So we'll go ahead and drive this. Now, this doesn't really wobble all that much. It's actually really quite good. Where there's a slight wobble, we'll tell you how to fix that a little later. This will take a little bit more sanding than I would have hoped, but that's okay. It's better that it sits right and it doesn't wobble much. So, these are in the right spots. They feel good. We can double check our measurements. See if you're the same here. Should be about 8 1/4. Good. And these steps should line up pretty well. 9 inches from there to there. 9 inches from there to there. Okay. Very good. So now we can go ahead and drill and put the other screws in, and then we'll do our glue. Here we go. Alrighty, now that all the screws are in, that's great. However, we want to make sure that's super locked and loaded, so we're going to remove them, put screws in them, or put glue behind it and screw it back in. One tip might be to do what we did on like the shelf project. Let's make a mark so that we get those coming back in the right spot. This will get covered by the top, so there we go. That's where it wants to be. That's where it wants to be. And then we can kind of do a similar thing right here. Step will cover that mark, and step will cover that mark there as well. Okay? Alright, so I'm going to start on this side, and you can watch. Make sure you sand off the pencil marks or erase them before you glue it back on. So this may have been tough to see in fast motion, but what I'm doing now is making sure I clean up all the glue that's squeezing out. And that will make it a lot easier in the long run. Okay, so this thing's not totally stable yet, but we'll teach you how to get those legs to be equal after we get the legs on. Or after we get the steps on, is what I meant to say. Alright, I'm going to make sure I get my screwdriver put back together, drill bits put away, and we will have some sanding to do here in order to make the steps work, and we'll look for any other places that we might have some sanding to do before we put the steps on.